Hi guys, and welcome back to F the Noise with your host Lauren Fiorenza Gill. Thank you for coming back. If you are someone that has listened to these podcasts from when we started back in summer this year, thank you for returning back and choosing this podcast as a place and a safe space where we can talk all things cancer, learn about new things, and to listen to me share my experience to hopefully help you. Like, if you are someone that has come back week on week and is listening to these podcasts, sharing these podcasts, then thank you so much. And if you are new, welcome. Thank you again for choosing F the Noise. It is so great to have you on board this cancer community and this cancer awareness journey with me. I must say, guys, I really do feel like this community is growing now, and it's so exciting to me. I can see all your DMs on our Instagram account. I am connecting with you guys on almost like a deeper level now. You would have seen that we've just launched our new series called My Story, and this was literally one of the highlights of my year to launch this with you guys, because the thought behind why I started My Story was to basically give a voice back to you guys. You know, you're tuning in, listening to me talking, but I really wanted to hear from you guys. What you guys have been through, you know, what type of cancers have you experienced? Where are you in your journey? What 3 pieces of advice do you have for other people going through it? And I think we're on the 5th one now that was posted today. And it's just so nice for me to hear the voices of you guys, to share it to other people in the community. So if you have been part of that journey so far and shared your story, thank you. I appreciate your openness, and I'm sure everybody else does, because what you're doing and what you've been through is incredible. And if you are keen, then just send me a DM on the Instagram account saying My Story, and I'll get you guys featured. We can share, talk about our journeys, and see who is part of this community. If you haven't already and you want to stay connected to all the news and updates and the community, and I would also massively appreciate it if you guys could tell me what you think about these podcast episodes by liking them, leaving a little comment. I'll reply to you guys. But I love hearing your guys' feedback and knowing what you want to see in the next episode. So yeah, if you could follow, press that like button and comment, I would be massively grateful. And so today's podcast is almost a follow-up from last week's episode. So last week's episode was focused on, will life ever be normal after cancer? And in that podcast, we covered so much good stuff about the reality of when you finish your chemo treatment, what happens next? You know, the kind of misconception that everything will just click back to normal. And I also share tons of tips about what helped me get back into my new normal life after chemotherapy. So if you haven't already, checked that out, because this one really is a part 2, if you like, of that. And so today's podcast is going to be focused all around self-identity, and it really is broader than just cancer. I will be covering certain topics because I really felt like after I had finished chemotherapy, as I touched on in the previous episode, like I had lost all sense of self. You know, I mentioned I didn't know who I was. I mentioned I didn't know what my purpose was. And that was a massive shock to me. And so in today's podcast, I want to dig deep. We are going to cover everything to do with self-identity, everything to do with how I was when I was a kid, because that is a massive part of when you lose yourself, to go back to childhood and see how you were, see how you grew up, what environment did you live in, how were you as a kid. And a lot of the things which I'll touch on in this, which I found out through therapy and reading and stuff, it all kind of goes back to childhood, and you kind of start there and then rebuild the blocks to then carve out who you want to be now in the present, and what life do you want to live now. And if that's so different from everything you're living in the present moment, you know, say your job is not aligned to your dream role, or say you're living or you've got certain habits that don't align to where you want to be, that is, guys, so freaking normal. You know, so many people experience this like disconnect from where they want to be and how they see their life to how they're living it. And so in this podcast, I really want to cover all bases, and I want to cover how I reconnected with who I am now and how I started living my most authentic life. And guys, it takes work. I'm just going to caveat that now, because it takes work. I basically started therapy after finishing chemo to try and understand why I felt such a disconnect after cancer to who I was living in the now. Like my soul, every fiber of my being was just screaming that the life that I was living was not aligned to where I wanted to be, or how I was thinking my life should be, or that true inner fire and that purpose. It was so far from the life that I was living in that moment. And I bought loads of books, and listen to podcasts about finding your purpose, reconnecting with yourself. And like some of them that I read, when you're in that state of not knowing who you are or having that disconnect, they just feel like words on paper. For me, reading books on finding purpose, connecting with the sense of self, at that time when I just finished chemotherapy, I felt very lost. I had no sense of self. I had no idea what my purpose was. It was like quite a sad, confusing time for me. And the way that I consumed information to help me connect with myself and find my purpose, it wasn't by reading books because it was just words on paper. I just needed something with a bit more deeper substance. And I think there's now, if I read a book, I can take it in. I'm in that position where I can absorb the information, write notes, then turn it into actions. But at the time, I needed someone to talk to versus words on a book. I needed more of like a kind of conversation to help dig deep versus just, turning the pages. So for me personally, books didn't work, but therapist was a lifesaver. So throwing it back, I was a child that was, I would say, quite a free-spirited child. You know, like if anyone's into star signs, I'm a Sagittarius, which if you know, I'm a fire sign. And with that comes a sense of adventure, like thrill seeking, slightly impatient, just wanting to see the world, be ingrained in cultures, like really pushing boundaries of like a normal life. And I wanted to always be outside. I always wanted to play. Anything that was like stimulating to me, like rides at a theme park with my dad, I'd try and like always go on the biggest ones. Like I was a little thrill seeker child. But as a kid, I feel like I was quite a deep child. Like I remember being in school and every single playtime or break that we would get, we'd have like 2 breaks in the day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then we would have lunch. And every single time of like free time, I would never go really and play with friends. Like I had friends and I was kind of that little child that would know everybody, not be in the popular group, not be in the library book group. Like I would just know everybody and I would fill that free time with learning and experiences. And so I remember I just had no free time in school, but it was because of my own doing, because I just wanted to learn and absorb myself in like new things versus just playing in a playground. So my first break was filled with speech and drama. And I would do a little speech and drama class. And that was a real therapeutic thing for me because I could express, I could act, I could transport into a character. I could go home, take my lines away and come back with some new learnings and express myself even deeper. So speech and drama as a kid was incredible for me because I learned a lot about different ways to speak, different tones, different dynamics in the voice. I learned a lot about different characters, different like backstories, like how do you build a character's backstory versus just the few lines that you're reading, like who are they, what was their life before. And it was amazing to like at such a young age leave so much to the imagination. And I had an incredible speech and drama teacher. And it was just my way to express. So every single morning break time, I'd go do that. And then on my lunch break, I might have like a little bit of time like in the playground, but then the second half of it was a saxophone lesson. I was a very big like music lover. And if you know me now, like I love music. And so the saxophone was something that I just tried and I just resonated with it. I don't know if any of you guys in school would have the opportunity to basically try different musical instruments or see what you landed on. And so I think I tried the violin, couldn't really get on with that. I tried the clarinet, loved that. And then I found the saxophone and there was just something about the wholeness and the warmth of the sound of a saxophone that I just love. So that would be my lesson with Mr. Elliot, who was my saxophone teacher. And then I do singing in the afternoon break and I just loved it. Like it gave me a purpose as a kid and it gave me a freedom from the academic world of school to just express. And so I'd say in that sense, I was quite a free child. And then in my spare time, I was doing ballet, tap, modern, jazz, dance classes. I was doing shows all the time, like musical theatre. We went to dance school. We went to Disneyland Paris and danced along the parade. Like with that side of my life, that musical theatre, acting, singing, dancing, as a kid, I just gravitated towards that. Like any chance to express was my favorite thing. And I also feel like the people and the other kids in those environments were more at my street than like maybe people at school, because I could relate to them on a certain level. Like they were theatre kids, they were expressive, they were loud, they were creative, they were also quite a little bit rogue and free-spirited. So in terms of community when I was a kid, that is what I gravitated towards, to anything to express, anything to explore, anything to play. I also love languages. Like I really love learning different languages. Again, it's something really stimulating to the brain versus like putting a big book in front of me and going, read this. That was my idea of hell. Like I still to this day struggle reading, and I'm trying to get better at it. But if someone puts a big book in front of me, it's just, my brain it just switches off. Whereas if someone's showing, doing with me, teaching me in person, collaboratively, I love it. I just learn really well off that. So in terms of like, yeah, my community, my learning styles, my personality type as a kid, very free. And then having that experience in school of the academic side alongside the kind of drama theatre thing, I really was very clear after doing a couple of shows in school that I really wanted to pursue drama and acting and singing. It was my passion, my love. I'd also have singing lessons on weekends, like I think from the age of 13, 14. My mum says that she can remember me falling on my bed after I'd done a show and just flinging my arms up in the air and going, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. It's to perform. I want to sing. I want to act in musical theatre. I want to dance. And you know, that was something that was just a constant with me. I still love it to this day. And so that was me as a kid when I knew after school that's the direction I want to go in. So I applied to drama schools. I did all my examinations. I did my like LAMDA examinations, which is like speech and drama. I got like a really high grade in that, and I was just ready to go to drama school. Like, forget college. I'm not going to university. I'm going to drama school. And so my mum, if you can't tell already, she's a very creative person. She's a childminder. She like pushes my dreams. She's like, there's no limit in the world that you can't reach, like go for it. And so she was a big endorser of like this life that I wanted to live. My dad also is like, sky's the limit, but he's from a very business academic background. Also, if you don't know, I'm half Indian. So in the Indian culture, it's very, very common, whether you're a girl or a guy, to go down the very academic route. That could be accounting, lawyer, doctor, dentist. And like I said, I'm not a bookworm. Don't put a book in front of me. Don't throw loads of numbers at me. Don't like it. My brain doesn't work that way. I am more get me on a stage in lights and singing my heart out kind of gal. So the older I got, I constantly had this like internal battle. And when I say internal, it was like an emotional battle. It was like a mental battle with myself, of the lines sort of blurring, because I had one parent that was pushing that dream and natural purpose and instinctive living of being a performer, acting, singing, dancing. But I had another parent that was like, absolutely not. We are going down the academic route. You need to go down a business route. It's broader, it's less risk. You can do that stuff on the side and I'll support you and I'll come to your shows, but you have to go down like a business route. And so I'd say when I finished school, in terms of my identity, like I said, I knew where I wanted to go. So I was still applying to drama schools, and I got into one in London, and it was just the most amazing experience. It was a full day. It was in Romford, and I'd done like all these auditions. They were like, yeah, you've got a place if you want it. And I couldn't afford it from my mum's side. Obviously I was a kid, so I didn't have money, but my dad could help out. And I remember calling him and going, Dad, I got into drama school. And he's like, you're not going to drama school. And I would say for me, that was my turning point in terms of understanding that it's not going to be as easy as like following my dreams in that sense, because that for me at that age was such a shock that I'd worked so hard to do what I wanted to do, find that passion that I'd instinctively followed all my life, very free, to then not being able to do it and having that door like slam closed in my face. And there was no other way of doing it. I couldn't do it. So I had to give up that place. I had to go back to the drawing board, and alongside applying to colleges, getting into drama school, turning that down, I was still doing shows because it was just literally my life. Like, I didn't want to go hang out. I wanted to go do shows all the time. And so I found myself just having this internal conflict. And that's when it started, you know, just after school, going into college. And so I thought, okay, I need a balance. So I need to make my dad happy, but I also need to do what I love. And so I found myself doing business, psychology, and drama and music in college. Loved psychology, could have definitely been a psychologist in another life. Again, it's so people orientated. You find out about thinking patterns and behavior and what reinforces behavior and why some people act the way they are. And psychology was just amazing for me because I was like, wow, this is a surprise. I didn't expect to like this. So that was great. And then I did music, and that was very textbook heavy. It was not as free as I'd experienced before. So I dropped that one. And then I did drama, which obviously I just absolutely was like in love with. That was my safe sanctuary. Every break, I would try and find the drama studio and sneak in and do something there, whatever it was, like rehearse with my friends for our drama showcase, whatever I could find, I'd do it. And then obviously I sneaked into the music studio in the college because I had friends that were musicians, and any chance I would get to like lay some vocals on their little college track, I would do it. So studio, drama, theatre, that was my life throughout college. And then I did business. Business was fine. It was okay. It was fine. It's just very broad. I do, although saying that, have quite a entrepreneurial mind. So I definitely only realized this year, which is so strange at being 30, that all my family on my mum's side are entrepreneurs. So my granddad had his own business. All my aunties are self-employed, have their own businesses, run their own businesses. My mum's a childminder, owner of her own business. And I was like, God, like this makes sense. But I can't believe it took me 30 years until I was going through therapy, going back to doing what I'm talking about now, of looking back at patterns of why I am the way I am. And I was like, damn. And then my dad is obviously in business, very, very business minded, very academic, very entrepreneurial, and also very creative as well. But there were definitely certain areas of business that I could really relate to because my brain was like, okay, like if I was to start a business, what would it be? So again, it was like bringing that creative side in. Anyway, college finishes. I'm getting this lead role in a show called Oklahoma as Laurie, and it's at Nottingham Theatre Royal, which is like a massive theatre. And I was like, I'm still going to look at drama schools. Like, even though I've not done college, there must be like a quick course that I can do for like 1 to 3 years instead of going to university, anything but university. And again, I was met with that internal conflict and external influence that was very strong from my dad's side of doctor, lawyer, dentist, business, marketing, whatever you can find, it's got to be in business and you have to study business. I remember sitting down with him and be like, I don't get it. I'm not enjoying it. Like, it's not where my soul like wants to be, And it was a lot of pushback. And I love my dad. He's amazing. He's a massive inspiration to me. Like, we have such a healthy relationship and I look up to him so much. But I think the reason why when I finished chemotherapy and had been through that cancer journey and I felt more lost than I'd ever felt was because I'd had so much time off work and so much time to just take the foot off the gas pedal and focus on me getting through chemotherapy, that when I finished and I looked at this life that I built for myself, I wasn't living for myself. I was living purely for my dad and what he had directed me to do in life. And I'd done it. I got this lead role in the show. I was doing that. And then I got into Westminster Business School, declined that because I wanted to do this lead role in Nottingham. And so I just went to Nottingham Trent, and I did business management and leadership and still did my lead role in this show alongside university. And I basically just kind of every single year throughout college, after I kind of like surrendered to the drama school dream and I just kind of focused on business and balancing my passion with, what my dad wanted to do, I always felt like I've always had that fire in me to want to be creative and express and explore and be my own boss and not work in like a corporate company, which I felt like just a number or like a hamster wheel. I always felt like I wanted to do more than that. And so it's always been in there. It's never gone. But there's certain things in life when you go through university, then you get a job that you have to just like prioritize, because then you start renting and you have to pay your bills. And so it was more and more dimming that light of creativity and expression and more focused on paying bills and being an adult, living life, So it is a shame, because when I look back, and I've been through a lot of therapy for this, and I look back and it's not a blame game at all. Like, I don't blame anyone for where I am or where I was in life after I finished chemotherapy, because I'm I'm my own person. If I didn't want to do that, I could have pushed back even more, but I just didn't have it in me at the time. That's kind of how my upbringing was. And I always felt like a chameleon as well growing up. Like I always felt, like I said, like I didn't have one set of friends at school. I had so many different types of friends. Even in college, like I would get on with people that were doing business and doing like economics, but also get on with people that were doing psychology. So I love people, and I love meeting new people, and I love meeting people that don't have the same skill sets as me or have similar as well. And so I've always felt like a chameleon, because I've always just felt like if you put me somewhere, I can kind of adapt. And I still feel that now. Like I love the challenge of adapting. You know, I love the challenge of remaining now true to myself versus when I was younger, I would adapt and give all of myself. So for example, if I was in a business class, I would be Lauren doing business, and all sense of creativity, all sense of love for musical theatre would die, and it would just be me in that moment. Whereas now, again, like I keep coming back to, I'll talk about therapy, but now I actually bring my sense of self, I bring my authentic self to the party. So it's like, yeah, we can talk about business. Yeah, we can talk about this. I want to learn from you, but as Lauren in her most authentic self. And that part has taken a lot of time to build back up. And the best thing that ever happened to me in my life in a weird way was cancer, because it allowed me to rebuild myself. It allowed me to reflect back on my life, and it allowed me to hold the mirror up to this disconnect feeling, which is all caused by some of the things that I've just mentioned about this conflict. If you are here and you've experienced cancer and you're in that living life after cancer and you're like, there's something more to this, I need to live every single moment in the full, live life to the fullest. I'm not sure what my purpose is, but I know it's more than what I'm living now, then you will understand what I'm saying in this episode, because that disconnect of feeling disconnected from that inner fire, true purpose, true sense of self, not feeling like you're living your authentic life is so common. Even best friends that I've had for years, that I've actually been through college and uni with, can say that they relate as well, because it's a very common thing. Like we're kids, we shape our life based on our external environment, our relationships with our family, our parents' influence, our friends' influence. When we go through school, college, uni, that's all shaped by the people you meet, by the degree that you've taken. And sometimes we lose the sense of self along the way, and sometimes we gain it. And it just depends if you're on that path of like truly what you want to do, or if you're on the path of what someone else wants you to do. And so I was on the path of what someone else wanted me to do, and I lost a lot of sense of self without realizing it. Like I was happy, like I'm going to just put that out there. I was a very happy person, but I always just knew that what I was doing in terms of studying and career just was not what I wanted to do. I would say when you're in an environment of working for a company or doing a role that doesn't serve your true inner purpose, but you're doing it obviously for financial reasons, to pay your rent or bills, you're doing it because like what else would you be doing, because that's where you've kind of gone from uni into the job and you're progressing. And I always was going for the next role above me, thinking that is the way that I've been raised to know that I am a successful person. And actually I didn't even want to be a head of social media. I didn't even want to be a manager. Like I was just happy being there, being creative, creating content. Like I don't need to be a head of social media and have 5 people underneath me. I don't get joy from that. And although I know that I could rise to the occasion and rise to the challenge if someone gave me that, as an authentic person now knowing who I am, that won't serve me as a person. I won't get joy out of that. So I won't do it. But that's what I was aiming for. And it was always about work equals promotion equals more money equals success equals happiness. And so I will say one of the biggest things that I learned was, what do you define as success? That is what I was raised up on, to define success. So I was raised to think that money equals success and happiness. And literally up until I did therapy about this year, that's still what I thought was going to be my happiness, and that was what was going to bring me joy every day. And so I would say, like, the first big thing to ask yourself, if any of what I have said has related, if you're like, oh my God, yes, I understand, is to ask yourself, what do you personally define as success? So I don't need to have millions of pounds in the bank account to be a happy person. Like my daily rituals and my routine of waking up, journaling, getting a coffee with my boyfriend, going horse riding on the weekends, like like spending quality time with friends, going for a walk around the lake, doing some like new experience that no one's done before with my friends or my boyfriend or my family. I'm an experienced person and I really am aware of that now. And so anything, you know, anytime someone's like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, literally nothing. But if you want to do something, let's do something together. Like, don't just give me a present that's static and doesn't mean anything with like no emotion. Like, let's do an experience. It doesn't have to be expensive. We could literally walk around London, get a hot chocolate on a Christmas market. Like, that brings me joy, truly fills my cup up. So if you are here, like I said, and you're like, I relate to this. Oh my God, this is a light bulb moment. Like, I'm not living life for myself. I'm living it for someone else. My definition of success is not what I'm actually living right now. Then ask yourself, what fills your cup up? What do you define as your own success? And is that the same or different to how you're living now? And then I would just recommend to get a pen and just write those 3 things down and do like a little spider diagram or like a mind map or like a list or something. Or another great thing is to do a vision board. So I am a big fan of doing digital vision boards. I have like a Pinterest for everything or like an Instagram saved folder for everything that I want in my life. So for example, vision boards can be done in so many different ways. But for me, what resonates with me is to have something that I'm holding on to all the time. So that's my Pinterest account. And I basically have like my dream house. I have where I want to live. I have how I see like a future family, my favorite type of dog that I would want to get in the future, like my wedding dress, like all of these sort of things I have. And it's just for me to keep checking in with myself of like, am I on the track to get that? Is there anything I need to do differently? And it's a constant self-reflection exercise, but guys, it really freaking helps. But the first part before you do that is to look at those 3 questions of, what do I define as success? What fills my cup up? And is my life that I'm living right now aligned to that? And if it's not, the first step is to do that work to bridge the gap. What do you need to do differently? And then once you've figured that out, and I had to have therapy for that, I had to do journaling for that. I've done a lot of meditation, self-reflection, like a lot of talking, a lot of crying to like family members, like my mum, my boyfriend, my friends, like chatting to them about how they see me as a person because they know me so well, and like how they see that my life is not aligned to who I am as a person. And so that first step, if you're there, allow time, allow space, allow patience for that, because that's a big chunk of work. And that took me half a year to do. And I'm still doing it now. Like, I can sit here and say I'm my most authentic self talking to you guys. You probably know because I haven't shut up for like the past half an hour. But I genuinely, like, I am me. Like, this is me 100% authentically talking to you guys, sharing my experience, being vulnerable. It's a lot of work, but it really helps just like check in with yourself of like, am I always acting as my most authentic self? Because that is the point of life. Like, if you can't be yourself, like, don't try and be anyone else. Really don't. Like, there's no point. I think there's also, I was saying to my boyfriend the other day that there's also that thing of like comparison of, I don't think it's a bad thing to have inspiration, idols. I don't think it's a bad thing to look at someone who you aspire to be like and see how they got to where they want to be. Like, for me, I do that quite a bit because it's so crucial. Like, we are so blessed with social media, and, you know, sometimes it has really bad sides to it, but I really use it intentionally for the good of like saying, oh my God, this person, like, they're living their life, they're authentic, I want to be like them. What have they done to get there? How have they changed their life? And whether that's listening to their podcast, scrolling all the way back to their Instagram, understanding, right, that's how they were consistent, that's how they showed up for themselves. These are the sort of things that they did. So I think it's good to do that, but I would say avoid comparison in a sense of like, I feel less than someone, because that will never get you to where you want to be in like living your best authentic life. But yeah, so that's some of my tips of how, so there's some of my tips of how to just check in with yourself if you're at that point of something's not aligning. I just wanted to touch on therapy really briefly because, you know, therapy is such like a private thing and I've definitely done some digging, but I just wanted to touch on therapy, but also people and things that happened in my life that had that light bulb moment of like, oh damn, I'm not living my life the way I want to live it. I'm living my life for someone else. And that can be a harsh reality. It could be a loved one holding that mirror up and going, do you know you're actually not living your life for you? Like, I can see you and I know you and I've been with you for ages, but you're living your life for someone else, or your life is not aligning to what you're telling me you want to be or who you want to be. And that's that. I've had a lot of tears over that because that's a harsh reality that causes change. You know, if your loved ones can't be honest with you and you can't be honest with yourself, which is a massive thing, then what is the point of, you know, trying to live an authentic life if you're not open to that feedback? So I'm going to take it back to life after cancer and that click light bulb moment. So I knew that after going through chemotherapy, as mentioned in the last episode, you're wrapped in a cotton wool bud and then you're like spat out into the real world. That is fact. For me, I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know my purpose. I felt lonely, even though I had an incredible support team around me. And I was like, why do I feel like this? Because everything in terms of my old life is there in front of me. I can go back to my job. I finished chemotherapy now, so I can go back living permanently in the house that I'm renting. Like, all my old normal life was in front of me, waiting for me to step back into it after finishing chemotherapy. And I was like, but why do I not feel aligned to that anymore? Like, why am I scared to jump back into that? Why am I feeling like that's going to not make me happy anymore? And that was my first like light bulb moment of like, I've not been living a life that I want to live. I've been living it for someone else. And so that was the click moment. And then I had a bit of time before starting work. It was pretty much whenever you want to come back, you can. And so I did a lot of digging then. And I was, you know, crying quite a lot to my boyfriend saying, I don't know why, like, I don't want to just like jump back into my old normal life, you know, like this job is amazing. It pays the bills. It's a great community of people there, but like, I can't connect with it as much anymore. And then basically I was just saying like, where am I going to go after that? Like, how am I going to get back on that promotional ladder at work when I've lost all these years? I just remember him saying to me like, just check yourself, like in a really loving way, but like, just check yourself. Like, is this the life that you want to live or that you're trying to live for someone else? I was like, absolutely not. Was so defensive. Like, how could you say that? That is absolute lies. No, of course I'm living this life for myself. I've got me to where I am and I've been in the steering wheel. And damn right I did, because I was in the driver's seat, but I was just going down my dad's driveway versus mine. And it's like that moment of realizing, damn, like I have been by the book of what I've been told is success, by the book of like, get the promotion, got it, done. Like, I've achieved all these things that I've been raised to think are good things. And I've been positively reinforced to do so. So like, I would get a promotion and it would be like really great feedback. Like, yeah, you got it, amazing. Constantly when I achieved these certain milestones that were laid out before me, as soon as I achieved them, I'd get this sense of achievement and happiness. And I get that little adrenaline buzz of like, yay, I did it. But guys, when I tell you, like, looking back how quick that high went, when I realized like, okay, cool, now what? Like, it wasn't a cup fulfilling moment, which it should have been. Like, this podcast, I set it up in May, and every time I come back to this seat and talk to you guys, like, this buzz of like fulfillment, of purpose, of like self-appraisal, like that feeling lasts for weeks. For me, that was a massive definition. I didn't know this at the time because I didn't have the podcast, but for me, that was something that I kind of ignored, that I would say to other people, don't ignore. Like, if it's a temporary high, why? Is it because that actually doesn't fill your cup up? And that's what happened to me. So my boyfriend was like, look, just like have a little think of like how you're living, because I see you constantly striving to please and you're constantly pushing yourself down this route, but it's not how you, like, it doesn't seem to make you happy. And so he was that holding the mirror up of just like noticing how unhappy and how sad I was and how disconnected from myself I was. And he was an incredible support, because I truly appreciate, like, he is someone that lives authentically day in, day out. Like, he is a massive freaking inspiration to me. Like, he has played guitar since he's been like 6 years old. He's a guitarist now. He works with all these incredible brands and partnerships. He's endorsed, he tours, he does gigs. Like, he constantly is creating. We've got a studio in the house, that his sanctuary, his whole, like, everything from what he wears to how he speaks to how he interacts is never ever forced. Like, it is so unapologetically him. And I would say meeting him has been one of the best things that's ever happened to me, and inspiring things that's happened to me, because I've been able to compare how I live my life and how much I'm trying to please others and put on a facade, to someone that is just, you know, I'm living with, that is authentically themselves 24/7. And so I trust his opinion. I value his opinion. And so when he said that, I was like, damn, like, yeah, I haven't actually been living my life for me. all these years, and this was like 26 years old after I finished Cancer 25. And so then I was like, where to go now? So I got all these books on self-development, finding your purpose, all these podcasts, audiobooks when I was on holiday. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I just kind of like bought all the tools. But because I was so lost and so confused and I didn't know who I was, I needed like my boyfriend, but in the form of a therapist, to talk to vocalize how I was feeling, versus like, here's 20 books, have fun, look at all these words of purpose and sense of self. And so nothing that I was reading in the books was landing for me because I was so lost at the time. I wasn't in the state of being able to absorb what I've learned and then action it, because I was just very lost and confused. And so I decided to get a therapist, and my sister had had therapy in the past, and she'd really taught me so much. Like, I remember being on holiday with her and saying, like, we were on the beach sunbathing, I just turned to her and started crying. And it's like sad because she's such an inspiration to me, and she's been through so much, and she had therapy and she's had multiple different therapists. And I was coming to my younger sister, and I felt embarrassed to come to my younger sister to say, I don't know who I am anymore. And I don't know like what I'm living for anymore. Not in a sense of I don't want to be here, but in a sense of like, what is my purpose? And for an older sister to like turn to her sister on the beach when we're sunbathing, take the AirPods out and just start crying on her and saying, I don't know what my purpose is. And for her just to come and hug me with like open arms and be like, it's going to be okay. And like, therapy's not a bad thing. Like, don't be embarrassed to go to therapy. Like, I can help you and it will be fine and it will get better. For my younger sister to step up and help me and share her strength and her knowledge and her support was everything to me. And she really she was one of the people that pushed me towards therapy and was like, you should try it. And I did. And it genuinely was life changing for me. And so I started therapy last year. So that was in 2023. I finished cancer in 2019. So it took me all those years in between, before I even got a therapist, to find myself and not even find my authentic self. Like, we're not even there yet. It took me 4 years to understand my situation, that the life I was living was not for me. It's a lot of time to think. And so I genuinely feel like sometimes in life, your path is exactly where you're meant to be. Because I had cancer 2019, COVID hit for 2 years. I felt lost after cancer. And then I had 2 years to figure what I wanted to do, next steps after COVID out. And so when I could, I started therapy at the beginning of 2023. And it was just the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was, you know, the first therapist, I didn't really kind of click with her. And it was a bit like this. There's definitely, like, if anyone's done therapy, like, you have to click with your therapist because you're going to be vulnerable, even if you don't want to be at the start. And so the first one I couldn't really click with. The second one was more of like a spiritual life coach, because I didn't know what I needed. I was like, do I need a life coach? But I definitely needed therapy first to unpack everything that I was feeling from cancer, from feeling like I'd lost time during COVID, to not knowing who the hell I was. Like, therapy was the best thing in that time for me, because it was like unpacking a lot of stuff, going back into my childhood, like what influenced the way that I am today. Why do I feel disconnected from who I want to be versus the life I'm living? Like, therapy was incredible for me. But this spiritual life coach as well was quite a good one. I had like 2 sessions with them before I started therapy. And I just remember really vividly being in like a state of like feeling very lost and confused, as I've mentioned. And she said to me, the first question she said was, can you just like name 3 things that have brought you joy today? And guys, I couldn't name a single thing. There was not once. I had a mind blank, and it wasn't because I was nervous. It's because I was so disconnected from who I was. I couldn't even name 3 things that had brought me joy in that day. You know, now I can say, oh my God, I washed my hair this morning. I had an all over shower. I journaled this morning. I went outside and saw it was a sunny day. That brought me joy. Like, I can reel stuff off to you. Like, I'm alive and breathing today. Like, that's something that's brought me joy because I'm grateful. And I couldn't name one single thing. And I knew that I had a problem, because I was like, wow, like, I don't know who I am, and I'm not connected to who I am currently. I'm so disconnected. She gave me examples of things that would bring someone joy, which is crazy. Like, at this time in 2023, I'm 29. Like, how can I not know what's bringing me joy? Like, that's so weird. But she was brilliant, and she basically was like, like a cup of tea, that could be something that's brought you joy. Or, like I said, washing my hair made me feel good, that brought me joy. So she said, the first task that I'm going to give you is to just go away, think what brings you joy, and I want you just to come back with 3 simple things on your next session. And basically that whole activity of 3 things that bring you joy, I do this every day now as part of my 5-minute journal, 3 things I'm grateful for. But that activity made me become more present, become more aware of what I was doing, made me write down things that would just fill my cup up, or things that made me feel good or gave me a little spark in my step. And it genuinely brought me back to the present moment in like a very present, conscious way that I just wasn't living at the time. I felt like I was being thrown here and thrown there. And so that was amazing. So if anyone's like, oh my God, like I'm not really present with myself right now, I'm not connected with myself, like start with that. What 3 things bring you joy? And then I had her for a next lesson. She was like, that's really good. And then I realized, okay, like now I'm present. I'm more aware that I need a therapist, because I need someone to guide me, to get me back to me. And so I did therapy for like 3 months. It's through the NHS, I think. And I got a therapist pretty quick, which I was lucky. I think I had to wait like 4 weeks, but I thought that was quite quick. And we went everywhere. We went back to where we've just been, through childhood, through my parents, through like my family structure, through where I was living. I just moved to London, through my career, my work colleagues. And she gave me these beautiful worksheets, activities, everything. And that was the best 3 months of my life. Hardest because I had to put in the work, but the best 3 months of my life to bring me back to me. And then after that, it's like, then I've got to do the work that I wanted to do. So I got made redundant. I was so excited on the phone to my therapist, like, oh my God, I've been made redundant, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, because now I can decide and reconstruct the path that I'm on to be aligned to who I want to be. And I can use all these tools in therapy of like what I've learned about myself, what I love, what brings me joy, to like really push into my next role. And I was like, the first big step for me is I was feeling part of like a hamster wheel in the corporate world. Like I needed to be free, and I needed to be self-employed. I needed to be my own boss. So I was like, I'm going self-employed. And she was like, oh, okay, all right. So I said, I'm going to become a freelancer. I'm going to be my own boss. It will give me the freedom. If I want to do something creative, like go on a photo shoot, I don't have like X amount of days holiday. Like I can just do it. I can still keep creativity, and I can create, and I don't feel chained to a company. Like for me, it was, and this is not for everyone, by the way, but for me as a person, like I'm a very free spirit. And so freelance, oh my God, like guys, it's changed my life as well. I became freelance last May, and I got an accountant just to help me out with my books, because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, books, numbers don't come to me, don't like it. And it's the best decision I've ever made. And I still have capacity and energy to then create my podcast, to do like charity events, to work with partners, like to push my own goal. And like my ideal goal is literally to like keep growing after noise, to meet with you guys, put on events, to do like wellness retreats with you guys, and like turn this into like a full-time thing is my absolute goal, to have a platform to help others navigate their journey with cancer, using my experience and using the voices of you guys to help other people. Like that is truly my purpose. And if I can do that through my podcast, if I can do that through social media, if I can do that through events, wellness retreats with you guys, you bet I'm going to do it. If I can help one person with this podcast, I've always said it and I stand true to it, that is me feeling completely like my purpose is exactly where I am. And when you guys message me saying you've listened to it, or you found my Instagram, or you found the F the Noise community page, or you've seen someone share a story that you didn't know that you wanted to talk about, and it's helped you in some way, or it's a family member. I have like mums of sons and daughters who come to me on DMs and say, hey, you've really helped me. Like, honestly, like, if you feel that, send a message to me and I want to connect with you straight away, because that is exactly what this podcast is for. It's sharing journeys and experiences. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on is like the life you're living around work. So I went back to horse riding this year, and it's so funny because that is something that I was reflecting on that brings me so much joy. Like horse riding for me, Oh my God. When I was a kid, I used to pretty much loan, not formally loan, but I used to have this horse that I would always ride. And any chance of riding, galloping, cantering, like literally through a massive field as a kid, that was like pure happiness for me. And I forgot about that. You know, life happens, you forget. And I went back into horse riding this year. It's the best thing I've ever done this year. Like that freedom of getting on a horse, learning how to properly ride, techniques, cantering with no stirrups, like I do riding every single weekend, and I haven't done it last 2 weekends because I've been busy, and I've truly like felt my soul calling back to the horses. Next year I want to go on a ranch. I'm a massive Yellowstone fan, like obsessed with Yellowstone on Paramount. If you've not seen it, it's Kevin Costner. It's the story of this like Dutton family on the ranch. The new series dropped this week and I binged it in a month, and that's what brought me back to being like, oh my God, they're riding horses and I used to do that and I love it and I miss it and I want to do it. So that's something that's bringing me a lot of joy, horse riding. And yeah, just doing like experiences really. I found boxing as well this year, which, oh my God, again, it's like finding that link with your past self. I used to box. I went through a really tough time when I was younger, with just some things that happened in life and I needed an outlet. And boxing was that thing, and forgot all about it again. You know, life happens, like I said, you forget about it. And they started doing boxing classes, but proper technical boxing, not like boxercise at my gym. And I've done Muay Thai for 2 years on and off, and I loved that. But boxing truly was like my thing that I just absolutely love. And I do it twice a week now. And even at the gym, like with my boyfriend, we'll do a strength workout. And I'm like, can we do some boxing to finish it off? Like, let's do some pad work. And that brings me so much joy. So like I say, I still have this chameleon energy that I used to have as a kid because I've gone back to the things that I used to love, and it fills my cup up, you know. Cancer can really be something that is the worst thing in the moment that can happen to you, because you are like, my world has stopped, and then you're just like left on the side of the road once you finish chemotherapy. It's like, figure it out. But guys, like if you're feeling like that, keep hanging on, because there is a life waiting for you after. Whether you're living with cancer and you finish treatment, or you've got treatment intermittently, or you are discharged, you're in remission, and you're still feeling that sense of like, what am I doing with my life? There's a life that is going to be bolder, brighter, more connected to yourself, waiting for you. You've just got to find it. And so to round it off, they're my kind of like key things that have really truly helped me connect to my authentic self, connect back to the little inner child Lauren from the past, all the things that she loved, like bringing it back into this life to fill my cup. If you're feeling lost or disconnected, go back to your childhood, go back to the things that made you happy as a kid, that you love, that you might have lost along the way. Do that self-reflection piece of going, what brings me joy? What do I define as success? Is the life I'm living now aligned? Do that piece around, maybe you do want a therapist, or you didn't know you needed one, and now you're like, you know what? I'd just love to talk to somebody about life. That's what a therapist is for. If this conversation has made you feel like, hey, I actually want to try therapy, then give it a go, because it is a place that is safe. And I would say one of the things upon reflection that I could have done is find therapy sooner after finishing chemo. The reason why I didn't do that is because I just wanted to throw myself back into normal life, as mentioned in the previous episode. But as soon as I felt that disconnect and sense of like lack of purpose, not knowing who I was, going to therapy to get a professional's help would actually really help me. So that's one piece of other advice that I'd give you. Like, if you are feeling that, don't sit with it. Like, get help. You don't need to suffer. You don't need to be sad. Like, you've been through so much. Go to someone who can talk to you and help you navigate through the world of like overwhelming thoughts, because I definitely had them. This is a little bit of a longer podcast, but it's one that has been on my heart to do for ages. So if you have made it this far, thank you so much for listening or watching, if you've been watching along Spotify or YouTube. And I really hope it's been useful in kind of giving tips on how to reconnect with yourself, giving tips on things that have helped me through therapy, just like talking openly with loved ones, journaling, vision boards, all that good stuff. And if you are feeling like that, once again, you are not alone. I've been there, and there is another amazing life waiting for you, literally as soon as you open that door. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow the podcast, like this podcast episode if you liked it, and leave a comment if you found it helpful. I love connecting with you guys. And if you want to connect on social media, it's Instagram at @fthenoise_, and I will see you there in the next episode. Thanks guys, much love.